All right, we have a population growth model question here. We have a small town, and since 1980, the population has been changing according to an exponential model. And so we have some census data here by year in 10-year increments, and we have the town's population. So the first thing we're going to do is convert our X variable. We don't want the X variable to be the year. We want the X variable to represent the number of years since 1980. So our first data observation is for the year 1980. So that would be 0 years since 1980. And then we go in 10-year increments. So we'll just fill in our new X values here. All right, so that's the first step of this question, just converting the data so that the X values represent the years since 1980. Now we're going to use the Desmos regression tools to find an exponential model. So that's the model of this form, y equals a times b to the x for this population data, where again, x represents the number of years since 1980. So a couple of ways that we can get the data into our Desmos graph. One way is to just type it into a table. And so to do that, if you want to manually type it in, you can add a table either by using the plus add item icon. When you click on that, it gives you a drop down. I want to add a table, and that gives me a table and automatically names my first two columns in the table X1, Y1. And so then I could just type in all of my data and that would be fine. So that's one way to get the data in. Another way to produce a table besides the plus icon is to just type the word table in a line in the graph, and you'll see that it's all confused until I get to the last letter. And once I type that last letter, E, then it gives me a table. So that's an option. One more option, when you've got the data, it's usually convenient to copy and paste from MyOpenMath. Problem here is I can't copy and paste these values. I can't select this table because those are answer boxes. I can copy and paste up here from my original table. Now that's going to give me the wrong X values because we transformed our X values. We don't want the X values to be the year. We want our X values to be the year since 1980. But I can just arrow through the X column in my table and fix those X values pretty quickly. All right, so here's the table that we're going to actually use for our regression. Now, I can't see my scatter plot because the window over here had automatically resized to fit the year data. Now that I've transformed the data, I'm just going to go to this little icon of the magnifying glass, zoom fit, and click on that. And now I can see my scatter plot of my two variable data. Okay, so now I want to use the Desmos regression tools to find my exponential model. So to run the Desmos exponential regression, I could either do it manually or I can go up here to this icon that says add regression. When I click on that, it's going to default to the linear model, but I'm just going to go to this drop down, pick exponential regression, and I'm going to toggle the log mode. That's important. MyOpenMath is going to always expect the result that you would get from the log mode. So I toggle the log mode and that gives me my model. So here's the equation. If you want to, you can click on this little icon to drop that equation down into a separate line in the graph. You don't have to do that for this part of the question, but I'll show you where it's going to come in handy in a minute. Pay close attention to the rounding instructions. So I'm going to round the value of A, which is my coefficient, to the nearest whole number, so 22769. And then I'm going to round the value of B to 3 decimal places. So that gives me 0.969. Okay, so that's marked correct for my regression model. Now the last part says to use the function to estimate the population in 2014. So what that means I'm going to do is I'm going to evaluate my regression function at the x coordinate, the x value that corresponds to the population in 2014. Now remember, our x value represents the number of years since 1980. So 2014 is 34 years after 1980. And so this is where it's handy to drop that regression model down into its own line, because now I can go up here and just replace this x coordinate with my x value at which I want to make my estimate. So again, the x value is the number of years since 1980. 2014 is 34 years since 1980. And here I'm rounding to the nearest whole number. So 7752 is my estimate for the population in 2014.